Hi everyone, I'm Pam Gregory. I'm going to be talking to you today about the second half of June and in particular the full moon that we have coming up in Capricorn on the 27th or 28th, depending on where in the world you live. Now we do have some beautiful yin energy, which is a continuation of what we had in the first half of June, this trine between Jupiter and Neptune. They're both in the mid degrees of their signs, so Jupiter is in the middle degrees of Scorpio and Neptune is around 16 of Pisces. So it's a beautiful trine. It's very feminine, it's very inward looking. Jupiter is the ancient ruler of Pisces. Neptune is the current ruler, the modern ruler of Pisces. So they're about peace, they're about connecting to our source, they're about meditation, they're about big dreams, but they are very much a sense of turning in, a sense of listening to that still small voice that gives us the highest guidance. So it's very subtle, very sensitive energy. So that's yin energy, and I mention that particularly because we have a lot of yang energy, as you'll see in a moment, happening this month and through the summer, I have to say, in the Northern Hemisphere. But sticking with the theme of Neptune, Neptune actually becomes stationary retrograde on the 18th of June. And whenever a planet, I've said this before, is stationary, its symbolism is magnified. So the 18th of June could be a beautiful day to plan to meditate for a lot of the day, to listen to music, to go into nature, to create. Neptune is very connected to altered states and also with a fine perception. So it's wonderful for your intuition, it's wonderful for your creativity. So anything you can do to boost that area of your life, the 18th of June is a particularly good day. Watch your dreams as well. Neptune is linked to dreams. So 17th, 18th, 19th, try and keep a dream journal because you could be much more aware of them at that time. On a lower level of expression, Neptune can bring up issues of trust or betrayal as well. So just see if that 16 of Pisces is affecting anything in your chart. But we may see that happening, of course, in the world. For instance, it's very interesting that on the Cancer solstice, 21st of the month, this is when Cancer moves into, Sun moves into Cancer. This happens at 3:07 a.m. Pacific and 11:07 a.m. UK time. Now, this is when, again, the energies are very subtle. Solstices, equinoxes, these are when the ancient peoples held ceremonies because they were aware that the veils were thinner then, they could access more high-level information. So the energies are very, very subtle. So always a beautiful time if you can take time out at the solstices and equinoxes. So that's the 21st of June. However, going back to Neptune, if we calculate that solstice for Washington, D.C., when the Sun enters Cancer, we have Neptune tightly conjunct the midheaven. It's very interesting that through 2017, we have the Sun entering the four cardinal signs at 4 points through the year. If you calculate those charts again for Washington, D.C., 3 out of the 4 of them had Neptune on an angle, ascendant or midheaven. That's very surprising and unusual. So we've got it again here. And the symbolism of that for the US administration could be that they are becoming much more compassionate, much more charitable, even spiritual in their orientation, and you be the judge of that. Or it can mean that we have leaks, cover-ups, even deception, and deceptions being uncovered as well. That's part of this symbolism. So just sort of be aware of that. It's a very interesting angle on what's happening around the solstice too. Then we have the full moon. This happens at 6:48 of Capricorn, at 9:52 p.m. Pacific on the 27th, and then it happens at 5:52 a.m. on the 28th UK time. Now, a full moon, as I always say, is very much a culmination. It's a closure. It's the peak of the cycle. So we may have strong feelings coming to a head at this time. But see where 6 of Capricorn falls in your chart, because this is also, Capricorn is the sign most linked to manifestation. So this can very much be connected to the fruits of your labour. Whatever you've been doing, you actually get the reward. Particularly if it's falling in your 2nd house, your 6th house, your 10th house, that could be connected to work and income. Are you getting something where you've put a lot of effort in? Capricorn is also linked to responsibility, and it's interesting at this full moon that Saturn, the ruler of Capricorn, is very tightly conjunct the moon. And again, this is about responsibility. And we may well see at this full moon the results of how well you've taken responsibility or not. Saturn Capricorn, very linked to those. And if you've handled responsibility well, you tend to get a reward at this time. If you haven't, then that becomes very clear as well. And I'm a great believer in taking responsibility for your own life, your own deficiencies, everything that's happened in your life. Because if you don't do that, whoever you're blaming or feeling a victim of, that means you're actually giving away your power to that person. So true empowerment, and therefore true happiness, can only happen, I believe, when you take full responsibility for really everything that's happened in your life. And I know that's sometimes quite hard to swallow, but it really is true. There can be quite a big shift for you if you can accept that principle. So things coming to a head, also full moons can shine a light on things you weren't aware of before, can reveal secrets that can modify your direction moving forwards as well. So as I say, see where 6 of Capricorn falls in your chart. Now, I've talked about the very subtle, feminine, gentle yin energy that we have with Jupiter in trine to Neptune, and Neptune becoming stationary and then retrograde. But we have some very strong yang energy this month. That is masculine outward energy. Because at this full moon, we have 8 planets in cardinal signs. We have the moon, Saturn and Pluto in Capricorn. We have Chiron, Eris and Uranus in Aries. And we have the Sun and Mercury in Cancer. So 8 planets in cardinal signs. So they are goal oriented, they're action oriented. They want to set goals and very efficiently achieve them, get to those points quickly. However, we already have 4 planets retrograde. We have Pluto, now Neptune, Saturn and Jupiter. And retrograde energy, particularly those big outward planets, it has to turn inwards first. It's introspective before it goes out. At this full moon as well, Mars is going to join that party. Mars is actually perfectly stationary on the 26th of June, but it actually from the 25th to the 28th, those few days, it's barely moving at all. So, and again, the symbolism of Mars could be stronger at that time. And Mars is about assertion and even aggression at times. And then it moves retrograde. It moves retrograde from that point until the 27th of August, so 2 months effectively. Now this is quite tricky for Neptune because, for Mars, because Mars has a very simple, direct energy. I know what I want, I've got to get there really quickly, nothing's going to get in my way, want to be the best, want to be the first, everybody else is too slow. It's a very simple, almost primal, direct energy. So it's quite awkward when it's retrograde, when it's turned inwards. And what it tends to mean, and I would really encourage you to do this, that instead of pushing forwards that Mars always wants to do, plan to not do, plan to chill, plan to take time out, plan to take a few days off, sit in the garden, go for a bike ride, watch the sunset, because what you may find if you try and keep pushing forwards when Mars is retrograde, you can hit obstacles and frustrations. Frustration is a big word for Mars retrograde at this time. So it's quite complex energy because Mars in other ways is very strong. When it's retrograde, it means it's closer to the Earth. And in fact, during this 2-month period, it's going to be closer to the Earth than it has been since 2003. So that will strengthen its symbolism. It also is going to be conjunct the South Node, the transiting South Node. It's also conjunct the US South Node in the chart set for 4th of July 1776 at 5:10 in the afternoon in Philadelphia, which is at 7 degrees of Aquarius. It's tightly conjunct that. And because Mars is now retrograde for the next couple of months from the 26th of June, it's going to be crisscrossing those nodal points, and it's also going to be continually off and on in a pretty close square to Uranus. Now, I talked about this last time as well. This is quite a volatile, assertive, irritable, tempers can flare, can be quite snappy, can be quite critical. There's a kind of irritability that comes up with it. It's brilliant for technological innovation. It's really good for that. And I think we'll see a lot of those connected to technology. I just saw a wonderful one today connected to aviation that's going to be coming up in the future, where we're going to have sort of, the concept is a plane train that flies above the ground, but it's actually a train as well. So remarkable. Things related to technology and or aviation are going to be just wonderfully strong at this time. So that's one of the upsides. But it is a kind of itsy, snappy, critical sort of energy. So I'd like you to be very aware of that in your own life, in your own disposition. Be aware of it with other people. You'll see it in the world. We've had some snappy behaviour on the world stage recently. This will continue, this square, until the 1st of October this year. So it's going to run for a long time. So we're going to have a lot of opportunity to practice how we deal with it. And as I said in the last video, the best way is really to turn inwards. We've got some very complex energy because a lot of it wants to push forward, but the retrogrades make it want to pull back, be more introspective. So it could almost feel quite chaotic at times. And because Mars square Uranus is quite volatile, there could be twists and turns and on and offs and in and outs. There could be, a lot of changeability happening very rapidly. Mars, Uranus are both very quick, happening in the world. And I would really recommend to you, as I did last time, to step back, be mindful, breathe, find your center. There couldn't be a better time, a more important time really, to find that center in yourself. Promise yourself, dedicate yourself to a daily spiritual practice, whether it's meditation, whether it's breath work, whether it's just taking time out to be the observer, whether it's candle gazing, whatever it is, it doesn't matter, where you can sense that feeling of turning into your center and letting that be your guide rather than being buffeted by outer events. Because one of the other effects this could have, Mars is in Aquarius. And I mentioned this paradox last time too. This is linked to friendships, particularly if Mars is in your 3rd house or your 11th house, connected with friendships. You can become quite snappy with friends, or they can become quite snappy with you. And what Uranus often does is just cut off. I'm done. Very cold, very quick. I am finished with that friendship. And that could be a shame if you really didn't want that to happen. So again, become the witness, step back. But it will be quite, as I say, quite complex energy because Mars always wants to push forward, it's speedy, but it's retrograde. Uranus is the planet associated with things always being speeded up. We've got to go faster. Time moves faster. When you have a Uranus transit, you feel like, gosh, time's running out. But it's in Taurus, which slows everything down. It's in Taurus till 2026. So the best solution to all of this fray happening on the outside is to come within. I really emphasize that strongly. You do it in terribly, terribly simple ways. Watching your breath, watching a candle flame. It doesn't have to be complex or expensive. The other aspect at this full moon in Capricorn is that it could make you very aware of your work-life balance. We have the moon in Capricorn, we have the sun in Cancer. Capricorn is being out in the world and working. Cancer is your home life, your emotional life, your personal life. Just check that work-life balance is working well for you, because it could raise that issue too. The other area that may come up for you is Capricorn is to do with our practical security, and Cancer is to do with our emotional security. Now, this may be particularly felt in areas of the world that are suffering from volcanoes or earthquakes, where those things become writ large, they become a very big deal. But just check in with yourself as well. Is there anything else you can do to give your sense that sense of security? Because in many ways, moving through till 2026, Uranus is going to shake some of the things that we felt were permanent or secure. You know, the banking system, the financial system. We're seeing it with the Earth in Hawaii and Guatemala. So be prepared for those shake-ups. And again, the best solution is to find your center, find your security wherever you are within yourself. You can always kind of by default find that still small place and just automatically almost see yourself in the lotus position, whether you are physically or not, and just know that that is your strength. And your strength in any circumstance comes from that. So I hope that's helped to clarify what is really some very paradoxical and complex energy. But we are going to have this running for the summer. We also are moving into eclipse time in July and August. We actually have 3 eclipses through July and August, not the usual 2. So I'll be starting to talk about those in the next video. And in the meantime, have a wonderful full moon in Capricorn, and thank you so much for listening. If you'd like more information about my books, my tutorial videos, my over 6,000 word monthly newsletter, where I can go into much more detail about things happening in the world, do please check out my website, pamgregory.com. And again, great full moon in Capricorn. Take care. Bye for now.